Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. And after spending probably 7 to 8 years in different forms on AM radio and Arizona Public Media, extraterrestrial radio, I spent a lot of time interviewing my elders in music. And through a myriad of cosmic sort of situations, I was able to connect with my peer group. And over the last 5 or 6 years, I've really been able to burrow in and see that so much of the music that I loved, even though it was being created from before I was born, is really very much embedded in my generation, my peers and younger generations. It's just, in some cases, the hill that needs to be climbed today by an artist is just that much steeper. But when I see cats like my next guest, it just absolutely floors me. I saw this band up at Treefort Festival called Butcher Brown, and my guest was the drummer. He was swinging this ferocious band that was like playing angular funk, jazz, and soul. There were no wrong notes. Like I remember, people talk about Herbie Hancock, or somebody would play a wrong note and somebody would put a chord on it. And the point is that this band is expanding the vocabulary of music in the modern era, and that is something that is very hard to do. And the rhythm section can be antecedents for that. They can't do it on their own, but this rhythm section absolutely propelled this band to new vocabulary, and what an honor. Corey Fonville, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
What's up, Jake? Thanks for having me, man.
Such an honor, bro. You know, I interviewed George Benson a couple years ago, and he told me, I'm just going to read you this quote, and you can riff on it in your own way. He said, Elvin Jones said this about John Coltrane, quote, "It was like God sent us an angel, and he stayed with us a little while, and then he disappeared." End quote. I thought that was profound. I liked his assessment of John Coltrane not being ordinary. And in this fleeting existence known as life, I wonder if there was somebody in your life, it could have been family, could have been a teacher, could have been a peer, that you feel was sent to us as an angel and made a massive contribution and had a positive impact on you, and then they left.
Man, yeah, that's a deep one. It doesn't, I wouldn't say it pertains to music, but like one example for me was Kobe Bryant, just someone that had incredible work ethic at his craft and really mastered it. And, he came and did his job and really changed the culture of, like, obviously sports. And then, unfortunately, he passed away in a helicopter accident. But, like, I didn't know him personally, but, he's one person that comes to mind. I think of somebody like Prince. I don't have anybody personal.
Yeah, I know, dude, you're nailing it. First of all, I just want to go back to Kobe Bryant for a minute.
Yeah.
How did he change? I forget what you just used the words. How did he change the game? I'm saying from the point of view of mastering his work ethic. How did that impact all these? Because I agree with you, and I was always in awe of him as a player, but then to hear all these younger cats who just speak of him like he was the biggest idol for them,
Yeah.
And I just wonder the work ethic component specifically, you riff on that.
Yeah, for me, I'm one of those kids. And so, like, I guess I just, would hear him do interviews, and he was just so brilliant, man. And the way, talking about getting up at 4 a.m. and, going to the gym, and putting those shots up. And just, music is not competitive. I don't look at it in that way. I try my best not to. I never wanted to see it in that way because it's all about, giving something to the people. But what I really respected about someone like Kobe for my generation, I had just never seen someone that just had the will to just always progress. He never settled. And I think that, that had a positive impact on me to just never settle for just being mediocre. And,
I love it.
Take it to the next level. Just to be the best version of you. You know what I'm saying?
I dig.
That cat had a huge impact on me, just, as a former kid that plays sports, but just, it also translated into what music, and inspired me.
Let me ask you a question. You just said something, like music, you give it to the people. Kobe would agree. He's giving at the best, when the team is functioning at a high level, they're giving off entertainment to the to the people. Yet those cats are being reimbursed or, compensated insanely well for entertainment that we all live on. But so I want to ask you how it ties into the idea of advocating for your profession. I have a big problem in today's world, not so much with necessarily the outfits you're working with, but it just seems to me at a kind of a macro level, especially since the pandemic, but before that as well, that a large part of our society views music as a musician's gift to the world. So you can pay to play, or you can play for the door. And you know what? In the past, you'd have road dog bands that would have roadies that, they weren't leaving the venue till they got paid. There'd be some, obviously there was also plenty of ripoffs, but I wonder if you can translate over that work ethic and being the best version of you as it relates to being able to sing for your supper on the bandstand.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to answer this the best I can.
Do it whatever comes to you. This is no right or wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. For me, for instance, I think with Butcher Brown and just me personally, I've just tried to understand so many different facets of the industry. I'm constantly trying to learn. I've gotten to a point, at least with actually playing music, playing drums, that it's okay, I know what I'm doing here. I'm trying to just continue discovering music. Now, it also goes with the business. I'm trying to just become sharper with that, fine tune those skills as well. And, it's it all requires work. I think, you have to, at least from what I'm learning, is you don't want to just rely on one thing. You want to have good writing skills. You want to be able to write music for potential publishing and music production. Everybody in Butcher, we all write music, we produce too. And I just think it's important to diversify your skills. You don't want to just be one dimensional. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And in this age, especially even before the pandemic, but post-pandemic, it's we're giving, this is a gift to the world, but at the same time, it does come at a price, or should. You know what I'm saying? It should never just be free.
Absolutely, man. No, go ahead.
That's really where I'm at. It should always be some type of monetary benefit that we're gaining from this. And so in my mind, absolutely. I think streaming has now been the new, that's just the way it is now, but vinyl is coming back. I think we're constantly trying to reach for something new, but I do believe that, if you want to really have a big impact out here, you need to diversify your skills and not just do one thing very well. I'm going to have my main skill is playing the drum set. That's what I'm best at, and I recognize it, but I'm also willing to learn other things, and I'm trying to get better at other instruments just for writing purposes. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to, perhaps maybe one day I'll get on stage and play the bass, but right now it's just more so for me to put songs together and bring some new ideas to the band or to other artists that I'm working with. I think that's kind of my take on it, but it's all about, how you move out here. You got to play. I think, playing shows is important, but also trying to also get involved on the behind the scenes stuff, such as, learning about publishing, how to get your music played on TV,
absolutely,
just
man.
all those cool things. So,
I remember. Yeah, dude, it's spot on. I remember one of my interviews with Brian Jackson, Gil Scott's partner, when they wrote The Bottle. That was a whole other story with their with Strata East Records. They didn't have any apparatus to get the product out, and it was selling like hotcakes. But so they had all the records in their apartments. But the older cats were always telling Gil and Brian to make sure that they work on their publishing, because obviously there's just horror stories about cats. You go back 50, 60 years, Huey Piano Smith, all these guys who wrote these classic tunes and they never got paid for it. So I just think that you got to advocate for yourself. And how do you feel about the idea of wearing 8 hats as an artist today? Before Joni Mitchell or Bruce Springsteen or James Taylor, once they got to a certain level, they could go out on a 40-city tour, be out for 2 months, lose money, and the record company could write it off as a tax as a loss because they were making so much money on the records. The promotion was already built in, and so and most importantly, those leaders and those bands could work on just focus on creating beautiful, creative art. And I just wonder how hard is it for you? Obviously, you're willing to push yourself into areas you're not comfortable in, but do you feel is it frustrating sometimes? Do you feel like it's because you have to wear so many hats nowadays, that it takes away from the actual focus on the creation of art itself?
That's a good question. You know, I'm learning. I'm like currently realizing like, okay, I need to like pick my focus, what I want to prioritize essentially, and you know, not burn I don't want to burn myself out. So you know, I've kept, you know, for instance, last year I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put out another little instrumental beat tape and just put it on Spotify and all the streaming platforms. I've kind of put a pause on that because I got sidetracked with finishing up stuff for Butcher, finishing up the record, getting the mix done, and doing final, you know, just last minute things and adding additional songs and talking with Adrian, our engineer, about like, oh yeah, let's chop this up here, you know, just doing some post production. And you know, then because it was a couple ideas I had that I was just like, yo, can we add this to the album? Everybody was like, cool, let's do it. But anyway, that's one example. I also started working with, you know, an artist and helping her write music for her next album. And I just had all these instruments, and she asked for a bunch of music, and I had just plenty of stuff just sitting on my laptop, just on my computer from just throughout COVID when I was just in the house making beats. And so, like, I sort of, like, started just, you know what, I'm going to pass this off to her because we're on the same publishing team. I want to, like, when she's putting out a record, I am totally fine with being behind the scenes and not having to be the artist in this moment because I do so much of that with Butcher that, like, you know what, I'm going to take a step back. Let me just send beats to her. We'll discuss it, figure out what she's looking for, and we'll just kind of get a vibe. And I'll just create a batch and put them in the Dropbox, and boom.
I love it.
I felt a sense of like weight taken off of me because of that. Because you know now it's like, okay, well, all right, fine. It's not gonna. Maybe I'll put them out as instrumentals one day, but I'm not like feeling that pressure. I'm helping somebody else with their record. And, you know, I'm trying to get involved on that side. And also, like, I have another project with a friend of mine, Rico. We grew up together, and we're doing music. And so it's like, I don't know, just trying to, like, really focus in on what's important. So I'm not, like you said, wearing 8 different hats. Like, now I'm more wearing, like, 3.
Yeah, and just, like, you can shuffle those hats around. You know,
it gives me that space, man. I'm like, I prefer that, and it's cool because now I'm like, okay, all right, I did my job, boom.
But I got to tell you something else, man. That you
don't want to overwork myself.
No, I mean, first of all, it's just so funny because I was talking to another drummer yesterday in an interview, and it's so important. You may not even realize this part of it, but it's like in this life. I mean, I've done so many 1,800 interviews, and you know, so much stuff flying around, and some of it's resonated hugely. But the point is that I want to leave a legacy that lives on long after I've left this planet. I've actually sort of surrendered to that as my purpose in life. And so the idea that you're taking creative content that might have been on the shelf or been sitting around and giving that oxygen is essential. It's essential for rebirth and rehabilitation. I cannot underestimate enough how important that is. I was just telling somebody the other day that, hey, they work on the production side, and I said, listen, you know, does anybody ever come in and like be like, hey, I need some tunes, man? And he said, frankly, no. But what I was saying was, if people do, then you should use some of your content and get it to breathe, because I feel like so much of stuff today, so many artists I talk to, a lot of singer-songwriters, you know, they make an album, not even sure if they get on tour. Basically, the album sits and atrophies on the shelf, and then they go make another album. It almost seems like you're just sort of running on a hamster wheel. So I just feel like if you can get that stuff out, I think it's brilliant. And, you know, whatever comes of it, it's just, to me, it's like your legacy will live on long after you've left this planet, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, man, because I was watching this interview of DJ Azzy Jeff, and it was maybe it wasn't an interview, it was just something, somebody just caught a moment of him just talking and just really just spitting some game. And he mentioned something about, like, I want to leave this planet with everything that I want to put out everything. I want to die empty. That's
exactly, dude.
And that was such a deep, that was so heavy, man, because I was like, yeah.
I want to leave empty too. That's it. He just summed it up. Because you don't know where that stuff's going to take off. I mean, and it's already played out for me with doing seminal interviews with cats that have already left. And so people can pick up on whether it's Steve Grossman or Mickey Roker or whoever it is, they can still hear their voice. They can still hear, I mean, who knows? Maybe some hungry cat'll, hear the interview and be inspired to get on the trap set. You don't know. You don't. So you want to leave empty. But I want to ask you about a few things going on in my mind. So you were steeped in your Pop's record collection and like listening to Philly Joe, Mickey Roker, Pete LaRocca, Max Roach. Every one of those cats had their own individual sound. I did 2 interviews with Bill Cosby about his involvement in music before the world caved in on him. I'll send you. They're unbelievable.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It's so insane because the guy he was upset. He would finish his stand-up gig at the Gaslight Theater, and then he would walk to the Village Gate, walk downstairs with Camille, who was his girlfriend at the time, and then the train would be playing, and Elvin would be sweating and hugging her. But the point is that he was like obsessed with being a jazz drummer, so you could put a blindfold on and put any Blue Note record on, and he could tell you who the drummer was. Right. And that's how you grew up. And yet today, I don't care what genre of music it is, I just hear homogenized sound. One thing about Butcher Brown that was so invigorating was that it was not. But I wondered, like, how have you always gone, again, we're always, it's the forever journey. How have you tried to cut above the morass of everybody else and find your own voice? Because you were steeped in that. I mean, that's what I listened to.
Yeah, man. Appreciate. First off, thank you, man. That we take pride in.
Truth, man. Truth, baby. Truth, man.
We just. I'll say. I mean, I have a unique experience, man. I think we all do, but I feel like for me, I listen to a lot of stuff in the house that like. My dad just had both my parents were just really into cool music. They're not musicians, but like my dad was he was very heavy into that acid jazz movement when I was born. So like I was born in 90. And so like around that time is when it just started taking off, man. So like you had Brand New Heavies, Jamiroquai, Incognito, all of that. Yeah. Just all of this fire coming from over there in the UK. And, he was just tapped into like stuff happening over here with like the fusion, like a lot of GRP records.
Of course. So
I was hearing that stuff. And then my mom was listening to Sade. She was listening to like, all of that stuff that was happening. TLC, Tony Braxton. She loved old school stuff. I would hear Denise Williams in the car. I mean, I was getting a lot. And my dad also loved fusion. My dad was a fusion.
God bless him, dude. That is the way. That word is so tainted, but I know what he liked. It's sick. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's it's just like we called it at the time. It was like contemporary jazz.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's just funny. Anyway, so I heard a lot of music, man, and when I got older, I got exposed to more like straight ahead jazz, and so that's when I started learning about Art Blakey and. Because I remember my dad came home. He was like, man, I found you should check this out. Like, it was Art Blakey, Jazz Messengers with Moaning. So I heard that for the first time, and also Kinda Blue, Miles Davis. So, man, I think I've just always been a sponge. And, I just don't really fall into any category. It's like some people may know me as the groove drummer, some groove drummer. I don't really identify with that, but that's cool. I don't care. Some people know me as the jazz drummer that was playing with Christian Scott and Nicholas Payton back in the day when I was like 22 years old, like 10 years ago. So it's like there's been different periods, and now people know me with Butcher. And it's like that has been my real identity because it's something that like I helped create. I started. And so like, those guys really helped me with creating my voice because it was an opportunity to play a lot of the music that I grew up hearing and that we all probably heard in the house. And so, when you have the ability to like play original music that you help write and create, I think it's easier to like start really figuring out your sound, especially when you've been doing it for a long time and there's no one judging you. there's no one saying you can't do that because you're making the rules.
Oh man, dude,
And
you are
so,
riffing poetry. That might be the most profound thing I've heard all year in this calendar. I
oh,
mean,
thanks,
I'm
man.
being dead. That is so. If you're creating original music, there's no judgment, and you can begin to hone and find what your sound is all about. I think that basically sums it up. And the thing is that regardless of where you started or, you know, all the those cats. What was so remarkable about that little pocket of time in our history is that so many of the quote unquote jazzers, the leaders, they were able to make the music they wanted to and have it commercialized, or not commercialized, but they could monetize on that,
Yeah. Yep.
which is so hard today. And I think so. Talk about yeah. I mean, because I just read it. I try to do as little research as I can, but it did say that you were like. You founded Butcher Brown, or how can you talk about how the brainchild? When I saw it and felt it and grooved on it, like I was like, this is really hip. I don't really, and I don't really see, and let me be very clear. It's hip because you guys have like you're not concerned about being judged. You're just doing something really cool and it's different and you're doing it well. That's the other thing. It's not sloppy. It's really great. And I talk about the genesis of that band.
Yeah, I mean, I helped start that band. I mean, me and myself and DJ Harrison, he's a couple years old. We're like 2 years apart.
That dude is an assassin, dude. It's ridiculous, dude.
That's a whole other conversation.
No, this is just set one, dog. We got more to do. Yeah.
So, man, like, me and him got connected back home in Virginia. Like, I've known him since I was 15. And I don't know, I heard he started making beats. He was making beats all through that time on MySpace, bro, putting them up on MySpace. And I had never heard anything like that before. Like, he was playing all the instruments. And I was like, dude, this is everything that I've been hearing in my head. And I've always wanted to play. And so me and him just started playing jazz gigs together. And he's also a very killing drummer. And so I knew him as a drummer first. And we just were friends, whatever, cool. And then one day I ended up on a gig with him through a friend named Jason Arce. And I'm a senior in high school. And this cat brings his Rhodes to the gig. And that was the first time I had seen a Rhodes in person. Oh. And he had just gotten the Rhodes, and so I was just like, yo, what? We're playing all this like kind of straight ahead jazz, but it had like this like Mad Lib Yesterday's New Quintet kind of vibe.
Absolutely, dude. Oh my God.
So that kind of was like the beginning. And we just naturally started just making music at one point. Like it just turned into a thing. Andrew was his roommate, the bass player. They used to live together. They all went to VCU. So, like, I would come home because I went to the New School for a year up in New York, and then I came back to Virginia. I was at home, and anytime I was home, I would go to Richmond. I would drive 2 hours, leave my Dad, I'm going to Richmond for the weekend. And I would just go to their house, and Devon had DJ Harrison. We call him DJ Harrison, just so people know. DJ had a whole little studio set up in the house, and we used to record to the DAT machine. He was straight analog. And so this is 2011. Sick. We're just recording ideas, bro. And so that's kind of how it started, man. It was a very organic type of situation. We didn't really think about it. We were just young and then just trying to make music that we loved, and it felt good to us. And, we made a couple YouTube videos, and, it was just that, bro. And, like, I think one day I just was like, man, this is pretty sick, man. I think we should play music live in front of people.
Absolutely. Wait, so it was just, I just want to be clear, it was just a duo at that point.
No, well, it wasn't a duo. It was just me and him kind of, like, really started talking about it.
That's right. You hadn't played live yet. I did. Yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah. And, there was a bass player, a guy named Chris Smith. He was a friend that was coming down from New York, come jam with us. And Andrew, who plays with us, you see, he was living with him. So it would just be different groups of cats like that we would come in contact with. Keith Askey, who was used to play in the band, he was the guitar player before Morgan. He would, DJ Keith and Andy all lived together in that house. And so, like, there was just a lot of music being made, and I just wanted to be part of it because I just thought it was so dope. And, yeah, it just sort of started to form into what we have now as Butcher Brown. And I think that's what has always been very cool about this band is that it's always organic. It's never something forced. We're just being honest with ourselves and play the music that we like. It's never to try to like fit in, you know. We might come in with a song that sounds like, you know, something more on the Southern rock side just because of the influences of Virginia.
Apps,
You know,
dude,
and
I'm
that
love, dude,
sound.
Mason Dixon line, dude. You kidding me?
Yeah, you know, it's just going to be there. You know what I mean? So, like, it's just a lot of music that we have probably listened to over time. And all of us individually have played in different settings in Virginia, but have been on the same gigs, but played, you know, some cats have played in bluegrass bands together.
I
But,
freaking love
you know,
that. Dude, this is like,
you know what
this
I'm
is
saying?
so, no, it's so, I mean, no, because, well, there's just too much going through my head right now. The reality is the thing I noticed, I'm curious about, like you got to forgive me, but the cat who, you know, who raps and plays sax and trumpet.
Tennessee, yep.
Yeah. So the thing that really stood out to me was like, in the most old school sense, he would not play any note. He only would play what was necessary.
Yo, that is a
So
skill,
much
bro.
breath. There's so much space, and I was like, this, you know, because like we're so pulverized now by, you know, and I think it's BS, like facility chops. This guy was like, I was like breathing. It was like I was like, this is an organism, dude. It was on, and that to me is like that doesn't necessarily. That doesn't come from the academy, you know? And I just wonder, like, how many of you cats were just like, clearly I mean, you went to freaking Dave. I interviewed Brubeck, last interview ever, Stockton,
wow, yeah.
Stockton cat. So you've had
Yep.
how many of those cats are just street scholars in that band?
Everybody went to music school at some point, whether
Right.
they finished or didn't. Marcus, aka Tennis Shoe, Andy, and DJ Harrison, they all went to VCU together. So Tennis Shoe was just a trumpet player at first, bro. He was just playing trumpet.
Oh my
I
God,
knew him
this
as a
is
trumpet player.
Tennis.
He learned saxophone from YouTube back in 2000.
Oh my, this is too great. Oh
man.
no, oh my God.
And then he was, you know, and then like eventually, you know, I started hearing about him rapping because he has like that voice, and he was like rapping a little bit back in like 2013 because him and DJ Harrison were doing some beats, but he really started honing in on that in the past like 5 years, and really, you know, he's just been shedding it.
Oh my God, dude, shedding like a
drums.
totally original dude, man.
Yeah, he's his own person. He's different, bro. Like Morgan and I, just like, yeah, that cat's different.
You know, I mean, you know, it just if you're gonna, I mean, I guess for the, you know, it's maybe sort of, you know, a leaderless band, so to speak, but as a front man, he's exactly the kind of you want that kind of cat fronting.
Yeah, no, he's got it. He's funny. He's like one of the funniest people I've ever met.
Dude, he's insane. Dude, I went this one sax. You guys brought it down, and it was just. I could have really been in that. I could have been bathing in that sonic bath for all night. It was like breathing, and it was just
man.
like only what was necessary. You know, I mean, to me, like that is really. Do you feel like? I mean, whatever reason what did you take? Let's just go with the new school. First of all, did you cross paths with Charlie Persip at all, the drummer up there?
I did, man. He actually called me when
rest in peace, another hero of mine.
Yeah, rest in peace, man. He called me before I got to school. Was like, hey, I'm trying to recruit, and you know, I guess he was recruiting me to come to the
That
school.
is so beautiful. I knew that, dude. Because dude,
crazy.
that freaking dude. I was like, there's no these two cats. I'm like, Fonville and Persip had to have had a connection up there.
Yeah, I had a little connection with him, man. Reggie Workman. It was a really cool time, man. I was thankful to just be able to rub shoulders with him. Chico Hamilton was also there.
He was. Was Billy Hart up there too, or
no, Billy Hart wasn't there. I had Billy Harper. I was in Billy Hart.
My hero. Oh my! I mean, this is so This is so important because I rail against the academy for so many reasons. Number one,
no, of course.
You know, it's like before back in the day, you know. You had North Texas and Berkeley. Now every school has a jazz program, and so many of the professors came up in that beautiful 60s and 70s period, so they had a completely different education. It was all in the bandstand. It was all with their elders. And now they're trying to teach kids within the four walls of the academy. So tell me truthfully what you, just to the new school, even though you were only there for a minute, what were some of the components? Was anything outside of rubbing shoulders, did you get a chance to play with some of these masters on the bandstand, and what did you take away from your academic thing at the new school that you can carry on and remain functional today?
I mean, honestly, it was just hanging around those cats, man. Honestly, just being a fly on the wall, going to see the shows. Like, I went to the Vanguard as much as I could to see shows. And, like, you know, just asking questions. I only had the chance to play with Billy Harper because he coached the ensemble that I was in.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, you could go to heaven now. You're done. You're good. Know? You're freaking good.
And I'll take the one thing I'm gonna say. I don't know. He just didn't care, bro. Like,
I know.
When he picked up the saxophone, bro, he didn't care, and I was like, okay, someone that has this much command, and he was already like probably 70 years old at the time, 75 or something, and like he just didn't care. He would pick up the horn and just play some crazy stuff, and like I don't know, for me, I was like that said enough right there for me, because you know, and to kind of go back to the point, like yeah, bro, I'm not the academia guy. I didn't finish school. I learned everything really from the streets, from playing gigs, and everybody in Butch. Part of the reason why, for instance, you're talking about how, like, Tennessee plays the horns and how he knows how to play with space and make it feel good, and he plays all the right stuff, is because we've all spent times playing in non-jazz clubs. More gigs have been played, especially in Richmond, more jazz clubs. There's not a big jazz
Dude, that's an amazingly... So you're saying it's not, like... This
wedding
like
gigs.
It's not like sitting there with the cappuccino and like having to like be quiet. Like you're playing regular gigs. You're not playing.
Man, people in the bar getting trashed.
I dig, man. I did. Yeah,
man. You in there playing. You just going in. Cats got a whole like.
I love it, dude.
It's that cats are getting drunk, doing their thing, it's partying. Like they're not trying to hear all of that, and it's not even. I don't even think it was a thought that crossed their mind or our minds. We just played what we saw people dancing to. Oh, them hips are moving. Let's keep it going.
Dig, man. Gee, yeah, because because in those, and that's the unfortunate thing is that jazz clubs used to be like that. They used to be dancing. There used to be people getting off and having like complete out of body experiences. But aside from that, also, like, you're not playing, like, the American songbook. Like, you're playing original tunes. Like, I don't even know if that'd be accepted in jazz clubs today. But, it's just, to me, I just, like, I wonder what you talk to cats. So, I wonder what you talk to younger cats about as it relates to going to school. You're one of the first bands that I've come across. I mean, there's some, but younger that, like, where you're talking about just basically cooking the groove on the bandstand, all different kinds of settings. Now you're at a point where you're creating original music. I just feel like there's so much groupthink in the academy. So many of the cats come out, if they're there for the full time, they come out sounding like their professor. And
there's no identity, bro.
Right, man. There's just a homogenization of sound. Do you tell cats, hey, man, slow down a minute. You might just be better off shedding on the bandstand for a while?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have a student that, I've become more of a mentor to him. But, I remember early on, he was just really focusing on straight ahead. And I was like, look, definitely get those skills together because it'll help your facility. But you got to think about it, man. You were born in 2000. This kid was born. You're not going to sound like Philly Joe Jones or like Max Roach or Elvin or Louis Hayes. Because those cats were living a different time, bro. Like, Joe Morello he was born in 1930-something.
Absolutely.
It's like, they're not going to sound like them. We grew up on different music. So, I think there's just this elitist mentality where sometimes, like, the older cats will come down on the younger guys and be like, they don't have the language, this and that, and all that BS. And it's just like, dog, what does that even mean? If Charlie Parker came back if Miles or Charlie Parker came back right now, they would not want to hear cats playing that.
They were sick and tired of that stuff. They were, yeah, totally.
They don't want to hear it. They want to hear progression. And so, like, I told him, I told this dude, I was like, look, here's some records. I gave him a bunch of different stuff to check out. Some Idris Muhammad. I had to I just put him onto a lot of music, man. And, you know, I just tried my best to, like, shift his thinking, which he was very flexible. He's a sponge, you know, and, you know, I think it's benefited him because I was like, bro, all you need to really have down is pocket. I just want you to get the groove straight. Slow down. Like you were saying earlier, I was like, bro, you need to slow down because it's a mindset. Sometimes, you know, he's young, excited, and, you know, they are like, oh, man, I just want to get all this stuff together because so-and-so said, you know, I should get this. And I'm like, look, bro, I hate to break it to you, but you're probably not going to use any of that when you actually
That's exactly on the gig, right?
You're not going to use it, man, but if you can play on a 3-piece, snare, kick, hi-hat, and rock that like Nate Smith, oh, you're good. That's all you need.
Dude, I'm having a ball, man. This is unbelievable. I was going to ask you this sort of, again, a little bit of an esoteric question, but I think very important. And again, you know, part of me does want cats to sound like Philly, not exactly like them, but in terms of the way they used the kit. But I mean, so much of that was like, so Milt Jackson, I remember the great percussionist Emil Richards, one of my earliest supporters, did thousands of dates in L.A., Tinseltown, played with Shearing, played with Sinatra. Anyway, he was a vibes player as well, and he said, he's like, Milt had the saddest looking vibes you'd ever seen in your life. You're like, how the heck? What? I mean, and then the life force. I mean, Milt would get up there with his mallets, and all of a sudden, sonically, things would go off. And I just wanted you to talk, if you, as best you can, in your own way, about creating, I don't want to say volume, but creating sonic expansion through your soul, through life force. Because to me, like, the idea is the best cats I know and the best musicians I know, they're not pounding the drums to get volume. They're doing it through speed, technique, but also soul and life force. And I'm wondering about your own cultivation of that.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you something. You might be familiar with this. So,
Hit it.
I mean, it's kind of some drum nerd stuff, but you know, Modern Drummer used to do the Modern Drummer Festival back in the '90s, and I was like a kid when I first discovered like Tony Royster Jr. It was the one that he was on.
Sure.
So obviously he crushed it. He was 12. Okay. The one that really stood out even to me as a kid was Bill Stewart. He came up there with a mismatched drum kit. He was playing like some red Gretsch bass drum.
I love this.
With like some like, you know, and it was like a kit literally like he took from the Vanguard.
It was ragtag. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. That ride cymbal had the chip in it. Like it was like somebody had to cut it. And he was playing the jazz kit. It was 18, 12, 14. And then 2 cymbals. And it was an organ trio. It was Peter Bernstein and Larry Goldings. Man, that was the baddest set of the whole festival. And don't get me wrong, like everybody was killing.
What was the feel? Talk about why it stood out to you, because you're right, it was all stellar, but that one was on fire. And explain the feeling.
He just had a vibe, man. Yeah. I don't know, like he just had such a vibe. Like he went up there, and I just felt like everybody. I felt like you could hear a pin drop because there was so much conviction in what he had to say. And when you're playing on stage with other cats that are also on the same wavelength, you're unstoppable. So like all the chops and all the cymbals and splashes or whatever, you could have double pedals. To me personally, it didn't hold up like that. Like, I can go back and listen to that clip right now, and it's timeless. It's just timeless, man. It's so bad, man. Bill shut it down. His hi-hat stand kept moving, and he kept sliding it back with his foot.
I love this. This is like, exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
It was all part of just the whole experience. Brian Blade is another one.
Incredible.
I saw him do a clinic at the Ground Up Festival like 3 years ago, right before the pandemic. And he was just talking, and cats were asking questions, and they had a kit set up for him, and it was just like some generic Yamaha kit, like, you know, stage custom, and a snare drum that hadn't probably been tuned. The kit hadn't been touched, and then a ride and a hi-hat. So after he spoke, he was like, "Oh, I'll play a little." They were like, "Can you play a little solo?" Man, Brian made that kit, whatever that was, sound like a '60s round batch. He made it sound like a '60s round ass, man, and I couldn't believe it. And well, I could believe it because he's so in tune with him, and he's such a soulful cat, like Bill Stewart, that it doesn't matter what they play on, it's gonna be them. Just like you mentioned, Milt Jackson. You said like his vibraphones look crazy, like they just look so sad,
so sad. And then it just came the minute he hit them. It was like, just is that the magic of? I mean, there's only two letters that separate magic and music. Is that the pulse of the life force of the person itself? I mean, you kept talking about vibe, but to me, like it's something that is unquantifiable. Because I feel like Corey Fonville could get the saddest looking kid in the world on a big gig, and maybe and you're gonna you make people's eyeballs dance.
I mean, I think for me personally, that's what I strive for too. And I think it's just as a result of like, I don't consider myself a drummer's drummer. Like, I'm not here for that.
No.
I am here to like, if I sit down on the kit, I want everybody to know, oh, something changed. Okay, the whole mood in this room is switched up. And I'm not here to play anything flashy. It's just me, whatever I'm doing. I just want to hold down the groove and lift everybody else up. And so for me, it's like, it's just all about like, it's a spiritual thing, man. Fella said it too.
He
like,
did.
It's spiritual. And like, you got to be in tune with yourself, like, because I notice a lot of people, they only listen to one thing when they listen to music. Like, I'm not just listening to the drums. I listen to a lot of stuff that doesn't have drums. And, I think it's just part of, like, the type of music that I'm listening to, whether it's Portishead or I'm listening to Earl Sweatshirt or I'm listening to Tom York or I'm listening to Spiral Gyra. Like, I'm all over the place,
I love
man.
it,
It's
man.
just like, I just love music, and I think, I love listening to DJs, how they put sets together. Like, I respect that. So it's like a matter of, like, killing your ego and being able to, like, just be present with what's happening in that moment. And I think that's how you can really take it to that upper room that I think we all want to achieve.
Dude, that's all. As a fanatic and a journalist, I just want cats to go there. And part of it's also playing beyond what going forward collectively, and not really caring about, that's the other part of it. Is I just wonder about. There's a couple of things that popped into my head. Just the idea that, you go back and you listen to. Jimmy Garrison with Elvin, or what, it doesn't matter what rhythm section it was back in the day, the rhythm was very round. And now, because of all this insane technology, there's so much quantized rhythm that, I've just had drummers like Rick Marotta talk to me about like hearing some beats, hearing some rhythm, and he's like, that's got to be a machine. And he walks in and there's a human being playing machine parts. And I just, and it seems like, so you've been, how have you tried to keep the rhythm in your own way? It might be hard to answer this, but how have you tried to keep the rhythm round? It was very evident, because that's how the music moves. And I realize that hip hop is absolutely the folk music of this modern era. It's the real stories, the real stuff. But the mechanized rhythm is so hard for me to really groove to. And I just wonder how you've learned to sort of, I mean, you're into it all. So how have you learned to sort of not get too quantized and up and down in your beats?
Oh, man, I just like shit to swing. And
That's
I think jazz, kind of going back to like the nucleus for me, was straight ahead. Like, that taught me.
That's right.
Jazz, man, especially at like that, like, it's that tempo where it's got that pump to it, that bounce.
The pulse. That's right, dude. Exactly.
Pulse, man, when it starts swinging, you feel
swinging, dude.
My hair stand up when I start talking about it. And it's like, I think if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able, like, that's helped me a ton with groove, just across the board, because I have a concept. I will never become, it's quantized, like real square L7 kind of thing. It's going to always have that hump, because, I like my beat to be kind of wide. And, it's funny because I've been working a lot with Charlie Hunter over the past few years.
Wow.
And,
cool, man. Love that cat.
That's just another level too, man. And, him and I are completely different generations. But, we both just have always gelled over, like, just really sticking to the groove and holding it down. And he's like, you're coming. He knows, he's like, man, you're like coming from the hip hop beat space. but it's like your beat is still very wide. Like my beat is pretty wide.
That's what I'm talking. You nailed it. You nailed it.
And it's intentional. It's not even intentional. I just think, also I love Zigaboo and James Black, like all the New Orleans.
Are you freaking kidding me? I can't believe you just dropped James Black's name.
Yeah,
man.
like all that stuff. Shout out to Nicholas Payton because he's the one that kind of put me on to James Black back in the day. So like hearing him, Herlin Riley, like
my hero. I'm going to send you all. You're going to lose your mind. I've interviewed all these. I've interviewed everyone. Herlin, Reggie, Billy, Percy. I mean,
crazy.
It's so beautiful that you have touched, that you have been graced with these. So what I'm hearing from you is because you went back, maybe you went back to Sid Catlett and, the original trap set, but the fact is that you did without the sort of tradition of swing, you might be more locked into quantized rhythm, you think? You think that was really the cathartic thing, was going back in time enough to be able to learn how those guys with, little amplification and a lot of life force swung the band.
I think so, man. For me, it's like I probably, got into situations. Like I just had to play a lot of music, man. Like as a kid, like in high school, where I grew up in Virginia Beach, just that Tidewater area. A lot of the musicians down there, they're not into like the heavy, like hardcore straight ahead. They were more into the ECM music. So like I had to learn about playing with touch and space, and they were always telling me I was too loud. So at the time I was like, man, I don't want to do that. I'm trying to play like Kane, Elvis. But you don't realize that they were actually, it was teaching you something that that came back later on. Now in my early 30s, and I'm like, I totally get it. So, having that variety, I think, was crucial for me because I'm getting different cultures. I'm getting the down south New Orleans culture. I'm getting the music from up north in New York, and you also got the West Coast jazz. And then it's the same thing with like other genres. Also, like I'm from Virginia, so I'm getting influences from the Appalachians. The Blue Ridge Mountains, where all the mountain men.
How could you not? I mean, it's unbelievable. But you have to be open to that too. That's the other part of it.
It's the open-mindedness. In Virginia, man, I couldn't afford to be closed-minded because there wasn't a huge jazz scene there. And, we were all forced to sort of like play in different environments and like learn, okay, well, these people don't really listen to this kind of music. And so like, all right, well, I'm playing this funk over here with this band and they love it. I'm not tripping. I'm having a great time because I love this stuff too. And I think, to bring it on home, man, I just think, everyone's different. I am fortunate that I'm thankful that, I came up in a space, in a household that showed me a lot of different music, from Bruce Hornsby to like, Dave Matthews Band. If you don't like it, you know what I'm saying? People have their opinion on it, but I heard it all.
Dude, are you kidding? I mean, dude,
I was like,
yeah.
I was like, man, I'm getting that too. Also, rap music, I was hearing all of that because of the Neptunes and Pharrell and Chad, Missy Elliott, Timbaland. So I don't know, man. I was down in Atlanta and Charleston maybe a month ago catching some music, and I feel like even though we're fully interconnected as a country, one of the most burgeoning hip music scenes, and it's been like that for a while, but now because we're such a, I don't know how to say this, like a non-culture, or we're just so homogenized and interconnected. I feel like the Appalachia, what you've been talking about, Charlie Hunter's down in Asheville. I mean, I can't necessarily always understand the politics of it. I can't understand sometimes the backward nature of people, but I will say there's a really heavy vibe down there, man. It seems to me like I don't really know about, like, dude, I've interviewed George Porter 3 times. I mean, Bourbon Street is a joke now. New Orleans is, but there really isn't regional sound anymore. And I feel like you guys have a real possibility with Butcher Brown in particular that's regional music. I haven't heard anything like that around the country. Wow, man, I appreciate it. And we owe a lot to another fellow Virginian, Richmond native, D'Angelo.
Sure,
he's the one that.
Wow.
We still haven't. I mean, he's a.
No, we're gonna do set 2 next week. We have so much more to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, man, like it's just, man, I agree with you. I think there is a sound that exists in Virginia. It hasn't quite been recognized yet. I mean, on a certain level in pop culture with like Pharrell Williams and Chad.
Yeah, I would even say like the like the Carolinas, Virginia area, like that is the 21st.
It's a whole vibe.
Yeah, man. It's before we wrap this up. I just wanted to ask you, Nicholas Payton. I remember one of my first interviews with Gary Bartz. You know, me and you have been throwing around like me and you've been throwing around a lot of names. We obviously have like a big bag of music that we're into, but me and you could walk down the street of Virginia Beach or Tucson, Arizona, and ask where I live, and ask 20 people what their definition of the word jazz is, and we get 20 different answers. And Nicholas, I haven't interviewed him yet, but I remember Gary talking about. Gary was also somebody who's like, I play music. I don't want to get boxed in. He made a tribute album to Coltrane, and he said I wanted to put it under gospel, but they wouldn't. They wouldn't let him do it. And so I wonder. And Nicholas Payton was like, he really believed that they should stop calling it jazz and maybe Black American music. And I just wonder about how you try to keep. When people are like, yo, what kind of music is that? And you're like, it's all music. Like, how do you try to break people away from the labels? Do you think labels, in my mind, labels have stratified and hurt the ability of music to really grow on a macro level?
I don't know if that's a hard question, but I think it's just people, man, in general that like, I'm just noticing it's like with food. They got to know what kind of food is it or what is it? It's just like, man, it's good.
It's good, man.
I'm not going to feed you something that's trash. Come on, man. Like, try this mole, bro. Trust me, it's going to be hitting.
Try some oxtail, it's good.
You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with music. And, we started with Butcher calling it, so we started now calling it solar music. We just like everything from under the sun.
Oh, my, dude. Papa's got a brand new bag, dude. Butcher Brown's got a brand new bag. It's unbelievable, dude. Solar music, dude.
Solar music. I mean, that's what they call it. And, it's a representation of a lot of everything we just love. It's just you pick and choose. It's like a buffet, bro. And
Corey Fonville, dude, you are blowing. I got to tell you, man, it is just so righteously classic to connect with you because just stay on your path, man. I mean, at the end of the day, maybe to me, like you guys have the opportunity. Again, it may not show up necessarily completely in this lifetime, but you have the opportunity now to even take not just the music, but even, all of a sudden, what kind of music? Well, it's all elemental music. It's all fire, earth, wind, solar. I mean, to me, you have a chance to completely change the game in your own way. And I go to the mat for cats that are collectively trying to breathe as one breathing organism on the bandstand. They're playing original music, and they're basically fearless and going over the edge. So I'm in your camp for life. I hope you guys can get out to the Southwest at some point.
Bro, yes. No, that's definitely would love to come out to Arizona, man.
We'll figure. No, let's. We got more to do. So let's.
To be continued for sure.
Absolutely, my brother. Be cool, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, man. Much love and appreciate you having me.
Yeah, much love, baby. Be cool, man.
Yep.
Peace.
Peace.